podcast that's for the fans and by the fans.
Gotta make them lose their mind when it's your time. And it's showtime. Going all out when it's go time. I ain't wasting no time. Gotta make them lose their mind when it's showtime. Cause it's your time. Lay it on the line when it's go time. Don't waste no time.
Charlie. I feel like we never take a few days off. Haven't been recording in about a week, and the Dolphins somewhat get the news done that everyone expected to get done. But we will delve into all of that and much more later on. As everyone knows, by looking at the title, we do have a special guest on. But before we introduce him, Charlie, how are you?
It's Go Time Dolphins, the Miami Dolphins podcast that goes not only across the pond, but across the world. I'm your boy, Charlie Touche. Got my co-host, Kadeem Simmons, with me. It's always for the fans and by the fans. Your favorite podcast, and it kind of feel like football is coming up on us, creeping up on us. It doesn't feel like it's that far away no more, Kadeem.
Yeah, but it's weird.
Oh, we lost Kadeem's audio. See, hey, you gotta love it when the co-host could pick it up and he just fumble and I just scoop and score. You feel me? But we got you back, Kadeem. That was more like the Tyreek Hill scoop and score where Tyreek picked it up, ran for the touchdown. Who we played? That was the Chargers game. Was that the Chargers? Teron Armstead kicked it out the pile. What game was that? Do you know, Kadeem? Can you hear me, Kadeem?
Now I can. I don't know what I did, but my microphone cut out and I had to plug in. Yeah. Apologies for what you just said and I missed it. Can you say it again very quickly?
Hey, what was the game where Teron Armstead pushed the fumble out the pile and Tyreek Hill picked it up and scored? It was the Chargers.
Was
it the Chargers? Okay,
Chargers.
Right. Yeah. That's what I just had to do for you because you fumbled and I had to pick it up.
But I appreciate it. It's why when we do episodes by ourselves, it's not the same. But yeah, as I alluded to earlier, the Miami Dolphins got a deal over the line back end of last week. Odell Beckham Jr. is a Miami Dolphin. It seems like the terms are $3 million base guaranteed 1 year deal, but with incentives could be like up to 8.25 mil. Before I obviously get your thoughts on that, we do have someone waiting in the wings, and it's only right we introduce them as soon as possible because we could do this all day and just
Hey, joining us today on Go Time Dolphins is Tyler DeSena of Fin Focus. First time on the show. Tyler, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing good. Like you guys said, the OBJ deal finally done. I think some of us were expecting it. Some of us kind of thought that the price would end up, outside of Miami's range. But the fact that they got it done not only before June 1st, but, immediately following the draft, they clearly thought that that this was something they needed to get done. And I'm excited to talk about them today.
Bro, I ain't gonna lie to you. I really wanted to pronounce your name DeSena, and I just wanted like Tyler DeSena. You feel me? But we had to go a different direction. So Odell puts pen to paper for $3 million. It's only $2 million on against the cap. Which is crazy. And then with the capping out at 8.25, the deal is the max is at 8.25. Kadeem, bro, I really think this is the jug. I think we got over. There were offers from KC and Buffalo, and Odell still took Miami. Like, what do you make of that?
Before I do give my thoughts very quickly, like Tim Carver says in the chat, took less to come to Miami. The great Finn fan says, "Yo, you've been MIA, Charlie." And then IMAX says, "What's good, Kadeem, Charlie, and chat." So yeah, I think when the Odell Beckham to Miami rumors kind of first circulated, I was of the opinion I'd rather see that cap kind of go towards offensive line. I know we had a whole back and forth before the draft started about getting a tight end in Brock Bowers as like a third option, and I was talking absolute nonsense. The Dolphins definitely need a third option. I don't think there's many better than Odell Beckham Jr. on the market, especially at that price. So I can't hate it. The Dolphins got a great deal. I can understand why he wouldn't go to Buffalo or go to Kansas City. but it's also a case of how are you going to fit in this system. And I've read your article, Tyler, about his use in LA, and I guess maybe part of the reason he has come to Miami is because he's played in a Shanahan system prior, and it ended up getting him a ring. So yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see how it all pans out, I guess.
So Tyler, you got an article up on Fin Focus, bro. Pretty cool article. Everybody needs to go check that out. We'll put the link up on our socials. Our IG is acting up right now. We're still trying to get our IG right, but we'll put it up on Twitter or the X space, whatever y'all people call it nowadays. But Tyler, tell us a little bit about the article and why you think OBJ is going to be successful in Miami.
Well, starting off with that contract, I know he took less to come here. I know that's on the table, but with that much money and incentives, you got to believe that there's probably something going on with those being what's the word, like playtime incentives or something, because, or at least like relatively easy incentives to hit, because the difference between 3 and 8 million, like if there was really other money on the table that was like substantially more than that, maybe it's gonna end up by the end of the season being closer to like 6 or 7 million, because of the fact that I feel like I just don't see Odell taking a $3 million contract that isn't necessarily like giving him a lot of room to make money. But as for how I feel like he could be used, I wrote it in that article. Basically, I think that he has the experience in a Shanahan system, albeit all of these Shanahan guys, they change it a lot. Mike McDaniel probably with the most pass-heavy version of it, but like there are so many differences between all these teams. Like last year, the Rams, who I wrote about, were number 1 in the league in 11 personnel, and the Miami Dolphins were last. So like you can be in the Shanahan system and have it be very different. But I feel like Miami, a team that's played so well when they're ahead and has been able to mix it up and really doesn't have teams coming back on them, needed to find a way to come back against other teams and needed a way to be able to work out of those holes. And we saw like when they couldn't run as much motion, they couldn't mix up the run and the pass as well, and there were a lot of pass-heavy situations, they weren't able to do much out of it. So adding a guy in OBJ who can allow you to go 3 wide more often and you're not throwing the ball than necessarily a Cedric Wilson or a Braxton Berrios, and you have a guy who's more dynamic, I feel like that's a huge addition.
I feel like Minnesota airs it out a lot too with Kevin O'Connell, similar system. Justin Jefferson out there. Then they added Addison out there too. So maybe Minnesota and Miami rival each other with how much they pass. But you mentioned something, bro, which is the third option. And the first year of McDaniel in Miami, we had Trent Sherfield basically running zoom motions and blocking all the time. He was just a receiver that blocked, and we still didn't have a third option in Miami. The second year looked a little different. We got more pass happy. Tua threw for 4,600 yards. Probably could have had 5,000, but we were up in like 7 games in the fourth quarter, and then we got blown out by the Ravens. So 400 yards away from 5,000. Yeah, you can make the argument that we air it out. We aired it out more the second year. So this third season, I'm like, I wonder what this thing is going to look like. And McDaniel even said, we're trying to unlock the tight end. I don't know if Jonnu Smith is unlocking, this new layer or level or another level of the McDaniel system. But OBJ, you got to imagine OBJ as a third option is gonna do something. My thing is, I was talking to LB Kadeem, and I'm like, listen, I think the first year of McDaniel was more prove it. Like McDaniel wanted to prove himself worthy, and there were still doubters on Tua, which there are probably still a few, but there's less doubters now. And I think they silenced some people, whether it came to play calling and head coaching and Tua being the quarterback. And in the second year together, bro, 4,600 yards, another MVP candidate type season. McDaniel not getting a record against the Broncos, running it up 70 points. I don't think anyone is doubting McDaniel's. Well, actually, oddly enough, there are Dolphin fans who doubt McDaniel's play calling. Crazy, oddly enough, you feel me? So I was about to say I don't think there's people who's doubting him as a play caller, but apparently there are. And then I'm just at a place, Kadeem and Tyler, where yo, I know what I'm getting with McDaniel and Tua, and I'm happy with it because we were probably the most prolific offense in football last season for a good while until O-line got hurt, Tyreek get hurt, Waddle get hurt, don't have them at the same time. This third season, bro, or bruv.
Bros is good.
Bros, listen, this third season, I think we remove all the McDaniel sauce of, oh, can he do it? All the Tua sauce of, is Tua the quarterback? I don't think we're going to get any Tyreek Hill over 2,000 yard conversation. I think it's going to be, yo, we need to make a playoff run, a deep playoff run. We need to go to AFC Championship. And I think that's what it's going to look like in the locker room. I'm not just talking about from the fan base. I think McDaniel knows there's more pressure on him than ever now. It's the third season. These contracts are getting out of hand and windows are closing. Tua is more comfortable than ever, but not on some I'm comfortable, I'm a good quarterback, and I don't got to play good. Like, I think it's going to be, you know what? Similar to what it was in Hard Knocks when Tua was talking to McDaniel, like, yo, we just need a first down. We just need a first down. We just, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's going to be more of that this season. Like, yo, we just need a win. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care if I have 100 yards passing. I don't care if I have 2 touchdowns. Like, we just need to win. So with Tyler, I'm going to go to you. What do you think the expectation is for Odell being the third option?
I think the expectation is, I think with this whole team, like, I think you nailed it right on the head. I think it's cut the BS and produce. Like, I think that Miami would not have gone after an OBJ if they didn't have confirmation from Baltimore because Anthony Weaver was on that staff, confirmation from LA because McDaniel and McVay are obviously close, that there wasn't going to be like all that talk in the locker room, and this would not be. I really do think that this is the year where Miami is trying to cut out that BS. I think we saw last year with the in-season Hard Knocks and the Tyreek race to 2,000. Like, there were all these outside things that I felt like just not necessarily weighed this team down, but we were talking about Tyreek reaching 2,000 yards in December when we should be talking about winning games to clinch the division. Like, I feel like there was so much going on where it wasn't just like go out and go win football games. And I feel like that's kind of what this Odell Beckham Jr. move is let's be more sustainable. We do not have to throw the ball to Tyreek to get him to 2,000. I would much rather him have 12 to 1,400 and we go out and we win the division and have home playoff games.
Hold on, Tyler. I ain't gonna lie, I might need like 1,600 or 1,700 because I'm gonna have more fantasy. You know what I'm saying? I might need like 16.5. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just saying, but my bad, I didn't mean to cut you off, but go ahead.
No, I get it. But he had like 1,700 last year. So we're like, and that's the point where you have 1,700 yards, you're racing for 2,000. You're still 300 yards short. You're only playing 60% of the snaps, and you're still being run into the ground. Like, they needed a definitive third option who can not only play with both of them and complement them in a way that I think Odell can, like, because I think there's the expectation that he's going to be able to play in the slot and Miami's going to be able to get weird because those guys overlap so much. Like Odell and Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, I think their games have so much overlap that all of them can kind of be interchangeable, except for, like, I don't think Odell's going to be catching many jet sweeps, but, like, you know, other like passing game concepts. And then also being able to take Tyreek and Waddle off the field, or, you know, worst case scenario, knock on wood, either of them get hurt, you have somebody who can somewhat fill that role. So my expectation for OBJ is he's probably coming in with the expectation I'm going to play, and I'm going to play just about everywhere because they need help at every single receiver spot, even though you look at the top 2 on that depth chart and it doesn't look like it.
Kadeem, there were a lot of times where Waddle and Tyreek Hill weren't on the field. And then for the first season, or the early on in the season, it was like, oh, it's going to be a running play because Tyreek Hill and Waddle isn't in. And then it's like the whole internet had to explode and have McDaniel switch it up. Like, bro, don't run the ball when Waddle and Hill come out. You feel me? So now that we have Waddle, Hill, and OBJ, I'm gonna be real with y'all. I gotta plug this in. Washington is a dude. All right. Malik Washington would have been, in my opinion, the starting slot receiver if we did not acquire OBJ. And I think acquiring Washington helped with the price of OBJ. So I'm extremely happy with this receiving core now, because now I believe we have all kinds of depth there. But back to you, Kadeem. This is not Trent Sherfield. This is not Braxton Berrios. You know what I'm saying? This is not vintage OBJ, but to have him in the slot, does that create something different for you? Like, he's not going to be an X. He's not going to be on the outside. He's going to be in the slot. Are you more excited, less excited? What does that mean for you? If it means anything at all?
So just to kind of follow on from what you were saying, Tim Carroll says now they have real options: OBJ, Johnny Smith, and the new Malik Washington. Going to be harder to just focus on Hill and Waddle. Shout out JM Mel, welcome to the chat. Shout out Jason Keck, he agreed with what you were saying earlier, Charlie. Shout out to the great Finns fans who was agreeing with what Tyler was saying. As I lose my voice. Shout out to Manolo Rivera, says hello, chat. And then shout out to Kenneth Rankin, says what's up, everyone. OBJ was pointless. So I don't think he was pointless. I think, like you were saying, Charlie, there were times last year where, due to injury, due to Tyreek Hill needing to go have some liquids because he was getting cramp, Waddle and Hill weren't on the field, and the Dolphins not only became somewhat predictive, but the rest of the wide receiver options didn't do a great job of getting open, if at all. So now you have a situation where, if you need to have, a series or two with Tyreek Hill on the sideline because he didn't drink enough water before the game and he's got cramp, or Waddle is limping, a bit too much, you've still got another option. And I also think you mentioned someone like Malik Washington, who hopefully, if he can take the league by storm, you've got Eric Karma back. Now, there probably will be a whole episode on the Dolphins' options at wide receivers, because someone's going to have to miss out. They clearly like someone like Braxton Berrios. Do they move on from someone like Eric Karma?
So I was going to ask you both, like, who's on the bubble now? So let's just go with the 6 receivers who we think are going to be the 6 that make the roster. If they even decide to go with 6, maybe they decide to go with 5, but I'm pretty sure they'll go with 6. So I'm gonna ask both of you, who's on the bubble? Because I got Tyreek, I got Waddle, I got OBJ, I got Malik Washington, Eric Ezukama, and now what? Right. So there's not a 6, a certified 6 in there. Who do you think is the 6th person that makes this roster? Maybe it's not Eric Ezukama, but Tyler, you're about to say something.
Well, I think the 4 that are locks are Tyreek, Waddle, of course, OBJ, of course, and I'm gonna say Malik Washington, because that pick screams to me that they want somebody who can be like Tyreek light when Tyreek's not on the field. The amount of stuff that Malik Washington did at Virginia, where it was like a lot of full field motions or coming across the field catching a screen, like I think they want a third guy that they can get those manufactured touches to, so they're not running Tyreek on screens 5 times a game and getting him just like chopped in the ankles and having to have him sit on the sideline. I think that's kind of the guy that you're going to look at to do some of that dirty work. Maybe, like you said, Trent Sherfield running those like speed motions across the field and then coming over and chopping somebody. I think Malik Washington is the guy that's like kind of scrappy and you could trust to do some of that dirty work. So I think taking some of that off Tyreek Hill's plate, that's kind of what I see for Malik Washington. But as for who's on the bubble, I can't see a world where this team gets rid of a guy like River Craycraft. I can't.
Bro, Craycraft 400 is my dude, bro. Yeah. He's my dude. And I'm gonna let you finish, Tyler, Kanye West. I'm gonna let you finish. Listen, but the Go Time Dolphins IG account may or may not have an inbox message, a DM message from Craycraft 400, and we'll tell you all about that on another episode. So Craycraft 400 is my dog. He rocks with Go Time Dolphins. We rock with him. But I'm glad you brought that up. But go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, I don't see a world where he gets moved or cut or anything. I think that McDaniel's proven that there are times where he just wants him out there on the field. And if he could stay healthy, I think that's a guy that is just ultra valuable to that receiver room. Berrios, they did just re-sign, but I think he's probably going to be more of strictly kick punt return this year, if I had to take a guess. And I think with the new kick and punt return rules, you'll probably see several guys rotate back there, because it's really it's a full on play now. There's like opportunities to make big plays back there.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Eric Ezukanma is my bubble guy. I feel like Malik Washington is there. I feel like there's too much overlap there. And you just went out and got a guy in OBJ who can do some of the contested catch stuff that you kind of wanted Ezukanma to do coming out of college. And now we're entering year 3, and he's barely touched the field. I feel like he's a guy that they might try to like cut and practice squad stash. I don't know. I feel like maybe if he makes the team, it would be having a guy who can block and do both, because you don't really have many of those guys right now, like a big slot type. But Miami's kind of proven now that they want to go 3 wide receivers and have 3 guys who can go out and like be dynamic, route run, and make plays. And I feel like Eric Ezukanma just has too much overlap with the rest of the guys.
Who are the 6 receivers that make the team, Kadeem?
I'm looking at the wide receivers now, and yeah, I feel like that final spot, or the final 2 spots, are between Braxton Barrios, Craycraft 400, Eric Ezukanma. Yeah, those 3 guys. Because like you said, Waddle, Hill, obviously OBJ, and you would assume Malik Washington, the somewhat cert. Malik Washington's the kind of guy, if you try and stash him on the practice squad, he's getting picked up immediately. So you don't even
practice squad.
Yeah, no so you don't even mess around with that. And depending on the kind of preseason that Todd Washington has, you probably don't even try and mess around with him either. You go, do you know what? Like, obviously he's not a guarantee. They got him like the 7th round, so there's every chance that they go, you've been beaten out by more established guys. Maybe they run 7 wide receivers and only 2 quarterbacks.
I'm feeling 7 wide receivers. I think especially with Braxton Berrios, that's just where I'm leaning. Didn't mean to cut you off, but that's just I feel like that's kind of where we're at.
No, it's fine, because it's a case of, listen, some of those guys, if we're being brutally honest, really are your wide receivers 5 and 6, and you kind of don't really want to see them on the field. But the way the Dolphins want to scheme things up, you can kind of imagine that every single person will have a particular role. And also, like you said, with this new kickoff return rule, it's a case of, you know what, maybe someone proves themselves in a different way. Like, how quick is Anthony Schwartz? Isn't he like the really, really, really rapid wide receiver?
He's really fast, but I don't know about quickness and agility, him being like that dude to be exclusively Devin Hester on the kick return, punt return. But what happens is you bring all these guys in, you breed competition, and all of a sudden someone does something. Or opposite of that, you lose a couple people in camp because of injury, which you don't want, but you still have the depth to, like, you know what? It's unfortunate, but we got guys behind them. Next man up, right? So those are all a possibility. But we're in a place now with the cap where it's like every dollar counts now. We're at a place where we're bringing people in, we're cutting people because we don't have that flexibility. So I think every dollar counts now, and because of that, I think that's why Ezukanma might sneak his way onto the team, because you have Braxton Berrios making more than Ezukanma, and that's only pennies on the pound if you're in England, and pennies on a dollar if you're over here across the pond. But at the same time, I've been trying to get Berrios off this team for like 2 years, and I like Berrios. I'm just saying, he's cool. He went to the U. He's my dog. But Malik Washington, something that Tyler said, Malik Washington, a lot of people thought he was going to be exclusively in the slot. He could be an exclusive slot receiver. And if he started game 1, day 1, he would be better than Braxton Berrios, in my opinion. And I don't think it's close, if I'm being honest with you. But the fact that Tyler just had this thought like, yo, we could kind of get him doing some of them, the new motion that Mike McDaniel created with the Tyreek Hill going out, like outside the numbers. I can see Malik Washington, bro. This man had 46%. He accounted for 46% of the passing offense in Virginia, bro. A D1 school, bro. A FBS school. 46% of the passing offense, bro.
Yeah,
he can do it. So even if we didn't get OBJ, even though the Dolphins don't do this, like just let their rookies just go off early, and they usually sit them and get acclimated to professionalism or whatever. Bro, Malik Washington is ready to go. He's ready right now, and I honestly can't wait, because if we didn't get OBJ, I was gonna slide on Malik Washington in fantasy and just have him chilling, like, and just have him on the back burner, because that's what we were. But go ahead, Tyler, you about to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like Malik Washington is a guy that you definitely have to look out for, because I don't think the healthy version of the Miami Dolphins plays Tyreek Hill 66% of the time. Especially if he's getting that many targets. Like when he was healthy, he was getting so many targets. I feel like the strong version of the Miami Dolphins can play Tyreek Hill a little bit more, get him to about 70%, maybe even a little bit more, but not have him do as much to the point where he's having to cramp up, sit on the sideline, run the same motion every play. Every play he's starting lined up almost as like a move tight end and having to run these full field, half field motions and doing all this work. I feel like if you can take some of the load off on Tyreek Hill, maybe you're not playing 3 games without him to try to make the playoffs. Maybe you're not throwing the ball to a Chase Claypool against the Bills to try to save your season. Like I think having a guy who can just kind of do some of that dirty work, and I just see like Malik Washington, like you said, 46% of Virginia's yards. Just that is a guy that you want to have on the field, just because you can get him some of that volume. But going back, I think, to that wide receiver conversation and who makes this team, I really do feel like training camp with the kick return stuff is going to be more important than ever. Like I think like a special teams role is going to be huge, because the NFL's never seen this kind of kick return before. We have no clue how it works. And now you've got guys like just going down the list of guys who could go back there and potentially do some kick return stuff. I mean, 2 of the running backs can do it. I mean, Achane, Jalen Wright, automatically I think are in the mix. I don't think Achane would do it just because I think you want to keep him healthy and away from it. But thinking about this, Achane, Jalen Wright, going back there, Berrios, Ezukama, you might try back there, Malik and Taj Washington. Like how many of these guys towards the bottom of the depth chart are you just going to say, hey, let's try it and like see what happens? They could be rotating so many guys back there in July and August just trying to see who sticks.
I think Taj Washington's path to this depth chart is the new kick return. I think he's undersized for sure. It's going to be a tall hill to climb for him. But you know how we kept what's dude, bro? That Isaiah Ford. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We kept Isaiah Ford forever. I think Taj Washington is like the new Isaiah Ford. He's gonna be on the practice squad holding it down. Kadeem, before you get into some comments, I wanted to get to this one where shout out to Kenan Rankin. We rock with you. Appreciate your support. Says OBJ was pointless. I'm gonna tell you why it wasn't pointless, bro. Does anybody here, other than Kadeem, I guess it's for you, Tyler. Does anybody know how many receptions the third receiver had on the Dolphins last year? The third highest receiving, third highest receptions on this team. What was it?
I know it was Cedric Wilson.
Okay.
And I just posted this, so I feel like I should know it. I feel like it was like 40 something.
I thought it was 30 something with Durham Smythe. And I thought Durham Smythe had like 300 yards. So if it was 40, that's news to me. But either way, 30 or 40.
It was Cedric Wilson with 38. At least as far as receivers. It may have been Smythe, cool, including tight ends. But receivers, It was Wilson with 38.
So it's in the 30s. That is why this was not pointless. We need a legitimate third option. Whether you traded to get a tight end or whether Jonnu Smith was going to come in and get 70 receptions and 700 yards, we need a third option. And I keep saying third option because it doesn't necessarily have to be a third receiver. We just needed a third option. And this is a more than viable third option. So that's why I wouldn't say it was pointless. But Kadeem, get into some of the comments. Shout out to Hannah Montana in the comments.
Yeah, shout out to Hannah Montana. Says, evening, gentlemen. There's a conversation. So obviously talking about the wide receivers, the great Finns fan says River or Braxton are getting cut, if not both.
Hold on. Real quick. Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Hey, River's gonna make this team, man. River Craycraft is gonna make this team. Like, we gotta speak it into existence. My bad. Go ahead.
So, no worries. The Great Fins fan says, "Yeah, I'm sorry, Charlie, but River's out of here." Jason Keck says, "Easy E is history." And yeah, I feel like that's the thing. It's depending on what Dolphins fan you go to, you're going to get a different answer, which kind of to me shows the depth that the Dolphins have. If everyone said the exact same player, you'd be kind of worried. It's like, well, he clearly the weak link, but for a different reason, people have different names, which I think is always quite a good thing. It really will be interesting to see which wide receiver kind of stays for that, like you guys said earlier, that kick return thing. Who's going to be the one to, and again, special teams always makes a massive difference when you're a rookie. If you can find a way onto special teams at the very least, you never know when you might get called up during the game and all that kind of stuff. I just think the Dolphins, I think people writing off Easy E kind of, in my opinion, forget just how he looked before he got injured last year. Even if it was just preseason, he looked like someone who was going to make that second year jump and someone who, the way Miami were using him in preseason, those motions, we saw it a lot more in the season with different players. But Eric Ezekiel seems like the kind of, especially his link with Skylar Thompson, Eric Ezekiel seems like the kind of person, if you can get him into a rhythm and get him going, he could, take the league by storm, and you never know what can happen.
I ain't gonna lie, but we don't got time for him to get in the rhythm when you have Waddle and Tyreek Hill. That's exactly what Mike Gesicki said. Yo, we got two world-class receivers. I understand I'm not going to get the opportunities that I used to. But as Ukama, bro, to your point, Kadeem, he looked like he was about to be the third receiver on the team in preseason. It looked like we were like, oh, look what we have here. You know what I'm saying? So maybe it was the jersey number switch that made him look a little bit better. Like, lower number made him look slimmer. I don't know, but he did look like he was about to shake something. But it's unfortunate that it ended up being that way. I had something for both of y'all. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. Go ahead.
Can I just get to a comment very quickly then? So Kenneth Rankin says OBJ will not be in the same situation as last year. Way different team, star, system, and players, so that doesn't matter. Tyler, in your article, you did speak about obviously his time in not just the Rams, but the Ravens as well. What did you make of his time, be it quite short in Baltimore, and I guess how it could work in Miami, and I'm not to say that it didn't work in Washington, but it's different team, different system. But why Odell Beckham? Sorry, Ravens.
Okay.
I've got Malik
okay.
Washington on my mind. Apologies. If I say Washington, I've got Malik Washington on my mind. Yeah. Why? Obviously, it's a different system to what he had in the Ravens, but why, if anything, he's probably better suited to be in Miami.
I think what last year proved is that he's just still got it. Like, I think that he led the team in yards per out run. They didn't have him on the field that much, and it was his first year back from the ACL. And I think that, you could say that all those things are excuses, but even then, he still led the team in yards per out run. He was really good in the red zone, and I think that the amount of times where the Ravens were like, just go beat man coverage, and he still did it, I think that those are the kind of things that kind of stick. He showed that he could beat press man still at a pretty good rate. He was doing really good stuff against just like I said, like tight man coverage, working over the middle of the field. Some of these slants he was able to take off on, a lot of slants and hitches. I think that that's kind of like an early role for him, like seeing him just putting him up against nickel corners. My dog's barking. But putting him up against nickel corners and just giving him space to work in either direction. Like the change of direction stuff is still there. And I think this is honestly a better situation for a player like him because he's going to be set to a role where he doesn't have a guy breathing down his neck in Zay Flowers who does a lot of the same things. And I think that, I just think it's a better role for him. He's the number 3 instead of when he's on the field, at worst, the number 2. I don't think that the different style necessarily matters. I think it just more shows that he does have the skills to be able to play in this offense.
Let's be real. 2 years ago, he should have been the MVP in the Super Bowl if he didn't get hurt. He would have been the Super Bowl MVP. That's a legit thing. Then he got hurt, and then Matt Stafford decided to play catch with Cooper Kupp, and it changed everything. Listen, if nothing else, and I say this in all sincerity, I'm dead serious when I say this. If nothing else, OBJ has the best hands on the team now because we seen Waddle in the drops, we seen Hill in the drops. Dog, you can't say OBJ's hands aren't legit. So if not anything at all, like, yo, this man comes in and has the best hands on the team. If you're in the red zone or you're inside the 10 and there's a tough catch to be made that, yo, I need some sure hands right now. And I just had a flashback and almost got mad because all I seen was Tyreek dropping a touchdown like wide open against, I think it was Baltimore. But anyway, yo, I think OBJ is making those catches. That
Sure.
Chase Claypool touchdown drop, OBJ is making that. You know what I'm saying? So
that's my
Go ahead.
biggest thing is like, I think putting OBJ, especially like that's kind of the thing that I wrote, especially about the Ravens, is OBJ in the red zone. Like the amount of times late in the season where it was, we need points, third down, and we're throwing a goal line fade to 5'9" Tyreek Hill. Like that can't keep happening. And like the amount of times that it was fades to Tyreek Hill, Cedric Wilson, like they were throwing fades to everybody. And I mean, I think part of that is the play calling has to change in the red zone. You got to be able to run something besides a goal line fade. But even when OBJ was in LA, he caught 5 touchdowns in the regular season. 2 of them were goal line fades, like with LA in 8 games. They liked throwing him, and the other 2 of the other ones were box outs where he was just running like a slant and just bodied someone up and was able to make a catch. Giving OBJ like the ability to create separation where there isn't much, that's something he's so good at. Late hands. I think his red zone production could be huge immediately. I'm not saying that he's going to be like a double-digit touchdown guy, but the fact that he could catch 4 or 5, maybe 6 of them, like those could be huge and could be the difference between you kicking like, what was it, 7 field goals or 5 field goals or whatever against Dallas. Like we won that game anyway, but it would have been a lot easier if some of those were touchdowns.
I had to do the Jason Sanders.
It was 5. That's what it was.
I had to do it. Hey, bro, you got anything before we get into the bonus time, Kadeem?
Well, I was just going to say the link is in the chat. Go check out Tyler's article. It's a genuinely brilliant article. So much of what we just got into, Tyler breaks down. He's even got on his Twitter, so I say Twitter so English. Twitter. But yeah, like the tweets are embedded in the article. It's a brilliant article. Check it out. Yeah, make sure link is in the chat, and we'll have also have it in the comments after the fact as well if you are listening, not live.
Kadeem, how you say it? You say water?
Water. Yeah, it depends.
Water.
Like water. Yeah.
And you say daughter?
No, daughter.
So why you say the T in daughter but not water?
Because it's a longer word. Why are we getting to my vocabulary for?
I'm just saying, bro, because you said Twitter. You said you almost said Twitter. Like I don't understand how these T's work in the English like vocabulary. I'm not sure how that works. But listen, hey, Tyler got this room behind him, bro. Like Tyler got this picture of Wade and the LeBron dunk. If y'all remember the pass and Wade runs out of bounds with his hands up, like I don't even gotta look. And then LeBron is dunking in the background, bro. Listen, there's one picture that I want. And I want to like blow it up real big, put it in the house somewhere, and just make a shrine or something. And it's the Ray Allen Game 6. Like Ray Allen shot Game 6, and everybody you can see the fans in the background. You see security bent over, holding the rope, looking up at the shot. And bro, I need that picture, and I need it like framed and everything. That is so good. But Tyler, tell everybody where they can find you, bro.
Well, the main spot's gonna be Twitter for now. Basically how you see my last name, DeSena here. DeSena Sports is my Twitter, so at DeSena and then Sports. I'm trying to get the Fins Focus podcast up and running again with my boy Jay. We've been working on that. We're kind of probably gonna have an episode up here shortly, so that's on YouTube, and then on Twitter is at Fins Focus Pod, and then I think the main spot for written stuff is gonna be finsfocus.com.
I appreciate you coming on, bro. I want to close with this. I wonder what this offense looks like now. I wonder, like, Mike McDaniel, he kind of switched it up mid-season. It was like he took the ball out of Tua's hands inside the 15. He started running it more. Mostert had like the most touchdowns in the league. Was it a top 5 running back in fantasy football? Earlier on in the year, it was Tua throwing 2 touchdowns every game or more every game, and ended up with 4,600 yards. I don't think this means we start airing it out all over again, but I really think and I hope we just simplify it to yo, we just needed more weapons to spread the ball around. We need to win games. Not worried about how many touchdowns Tua has. Not worried about if we're going to get 5,000 yards from Tua. Not worried about we're going to get 2,000 yards from Tyreek. And it's just interesting because once upon a time last year during the season, everybody said Miami had the best offense in the league. And that it was legit. And then suddenly, you lose a couple pieces and now, Tua's not it again. I don't know how that works, but
yeah,
I can't wait to see what we get, and I really feel good about this OBJ acquisition, or transaction, I guess. But listen, Tyler, come on over to bonus time with us. We're gonna get out. We're gonna go into the outro and then bring it back in a little bit. But y'all know what time it is. Stay positive. Test negative for Tyler and Kadeem Simmons. I'm Charlie Touche. Thank you for tuning in this time. Make sure you catch us next time on Go Time. Already.
Gotta make them lose their mind when it's your time. And it's show time. Going all out when it's go time. I ain't wasting no time. Gotta make them lose their mind when it's show time. Cause it's your time. Lay it on the line when it's go time. Don't waste no time. Gotta make them lose their mind when it's your time. And it's showtime. Going all out when it's go time. I ain't wasting no time.
I promise you, we will do the draft hat giveaway on the next episode. I know we said this episode. I didn't expect to listen. I didn't expect the Dolphins to sign OBJ. And I didn't think we'd have a guest on as well. So next episode, unless something crazy happens, it's just be me and Charlie.
Nah, bro, ain't no unless. It's guaranteed coming on the next episode. Guaranteed. Hey, listen, Aaron Donald could come out of retirement and Chris Greer could have manipulated the cap to get him and bring him on to the Dolphins. We're still giving away the draft hat on the next episode.
You heard it here first.
Hey, hold up, real quick thing. But we need a new intro for the video intro for YouTube. Like we got friends of the podcast. We got Brandon Jones, friend of the podcast, Brandon Jones, friend of the podcast, Robert Hunt, friend of the podcast, Miles Gaskin. On it, them boys ain't going nowhere. They always make the intro. You know what I'm saying? Here on Go Time Dolphins. But I noticed we might need to spice it up a little bit. Yeah, I think this is just a me thing. It's the logo at the end. Like we changed logo. And like no one knows, probably no one cares. But I'm just like, I kind of want the new logo on there, and switching it up every time, or not every time, switching up every once in a while doesn't hurt. The team refreshes. The Dolphins should, or our intro should as well, I guess. But yeah, I ain't gonna lie, he's not a friend of the podcast, but I still want to keep Mike Gesicki up there, bro. That's my dog. I got a soft spot for Mike Gesicki, man. Like I can't let him go, bro. I can't quit Mike Gesicki, bro. I got it bad. 100%. A few comments, and I've got a question for Tyler quickly. So Kenneth Rankin says you're missing the fact that defenses, he says, did lock in or couldn't lock in on wide receiver at Baltimore. Playoff defenses could lock in our wide receivers. I do think that was simply because it felt like no hill, no waddle. The team was on its last legs. Jason Keck says one thing you cannot argue is he is an upgrade. But one thing I do want to ask you, Tyler, is the draft. So obviously Chop Robinson, Patrick Paul, trading up for Jalen Wright. The draft in total, what did you make of it? Was there anyone you wanted the Dolphins to take at 21? Like, what were your overall thoughts of the draft process?
I think we kind of just saw that this team wants to be sustainable outside this window. I think that they understand that there's a time where Tyreek Hill is not the number one receiver on this team. Jalen Ramsey's not on this team. Bradley Chubb's not on this team. These guys that they're paying a lot of money, I think they understand that there's a time frame where these guys aren't going to be the faces of the Miami Dolphins, and I think they are constantly wanting to have the next option. And I think that Chop Robinson showed that with Bradley Chubb. I think that that's a huge contract, and there is no chance that Bradley Chubb plays as a Miami Dolphin until the end of that contract. I just can't see it just because of the money. They might restructure it, try to move it around, but as it stands right now, there is no way that he is a Dolphin until the end of that deal. And they went out and got Chop Robinson, who I wasn't the biggest fan when I first saw it, but just Now that I'm thinking about it in terms of right now and not just the future, I do like the fact that you can line him up in a variety of different spots. And once these edges are back healthy, if you get Jalen Phillips, get Bradley Chubb back, like when these guys are healthy, the amount of guys that you can move all over the place and let them just eat, I think that that's huge. And I think people are forgetting, like, you've got Zach Sealer up the middle, is another really good pass rusher from the inside. You just signed Shaq Barrett. You drafted Mo Kamara later. Like, there's a lot of guys who can just get to the quarterback. And this is a team that, when they were at their best, they were rushing the passer. So I liked that. Patrick Paul, I get it. I really do. I like the player. Like, I really do. I think that he's going to be a really good fit. And I think that there's going to be a time when you don't have Teron Armstead. So I think that there's a real chance that you see Patrick Paul play this year at some point. And I get that he's not the most polished guy, but he is just a mountain. And that's one thing that you can't get over, is the fact that he's just hard to get around. So I liked that pick. Although, like, I still feel like the O-line is the number one problem right now. I feel like if I had to pick, like, a need that I feel like needs to be addressed, if you can get me one or two O-linemen, I'm in a good spot. I still feel like this team's better than last year, just because I feel like some of the places we upgraded were major needs. Like linebacker, I think people are underestimating what, like, a Jordan Brooks can be for this team. But yeah, I like that pick. Jalen Wright, I think what that kind of signals to me is that you're going to be looking at Achane more as a pass catcher this year. I think that you could see some of those, like, roles where, early in the year where Miami was running Achane and Mostert on the same plays and had them in like 20 personnel or 21 personnel with two, like, fast running backs as opposed to a fullback. I think that's where kind of Wright can slot in, and then you can run Achane more as a receiver, let him catch some passes out of the backfield. Because the best version of this Miami Dolphins offense, in my opinion, when it comes to their passing game, my favorite version as far as an efficiency standpoint was around that Cleveland game in McDaniel's first year, because that was a game where Trent Sherfield had a bunch of yards, Mike Gesicki played well, and, like, I think the ideal version of this offense is one where you've got 3 to 4 guys who can just catch passes, and then you can also throw the running backs. And one thing Miami didn't do much this year, which I think hurt them, was they weren't really testing the flats as much. And I think in year one, they did that too much with Mike Gesicki, and that's just not going to work with his size and long strides. He's not going to go juking people in the flats, but having a Jonnu Smith who you can target in the flats, having running backs you can throw to out there, and then having receivers like OBJ who can eat in the short middle, being able to threaten more spots on the field is huge. And I think that that's a big thing. And then as for late picks, love Malik Washington, wanted to see Miami draft a receiver. Going out and getting more edge help in Mo Kamara. Like, I didn't watch the guy personally, but seeing the production just being there, like, that's something that's always good. Just getting a guy that has produced at the college level late. And then Taj Washington, a bit of a wild card, could be exciting to see him make the team. Wasn't much on the undrafted free agent market that I was like, oh, this is a guaranteed, like, lock to make the team, but there will be a guy probably, because there always is.
Crazy how that works. There's always an undrafted free agent that comes in and opens some eyes too. It's not just, oh, he made the team. It's like, oh, how did this happen? So a couple of things that you said. I'll start with the last one, which is test out the flats more. We need more balls in the flats. I actually think that's on Tua. And Tua said he had 4 things that he wanted to work on this offseason, and I would bet it would be, you can't work on it during the offseason, but one of them is, I'm gonna check the ball down more instead of trying to play home run ball. And I think he had I think he had social media in his ear and the TV personalities in his ear. Tua can't do this, X, Y, and Z. And he just wants to show people, look like money to me. You know what I'm saying? So I think, like Peyton Manning said, you can't go broke taking the profit. It's okay to drive down the field with 7-yard flat passes all the time. If they're going to play cover 3 with basically 3 safeties, or cover 4 and prevent, and not let Waddle and Hill go on top, cool. Let's check it down. Let's check it down and see what happens. No one likes the terminology check down Charlie. Maybe we have a check down Charlie segment on Go Time Dolphins. I don't know. But another thing that you said, bro, was you said they want to be sustainable outside of this window. And here's why I agree. Now, because the Rams, they went all in before, made it to the Super Bowl and didn't win it. Then they went all in again, made it to the Super Bowl and won it. And in between those times, they were irrelevant. They disappeared. They vanished off the face of the earth. There was only 31 teams in the NFL when the Rams did that. Like, you just decimated. There's no cap. You got to recover. And it happens with a lot of teams when they go all in. And I thought that would be with Stephen Ross's mentality. I thought that's what it would be with the 5-year rookie contract type thing. Like, yo, we're going to go all in, and we're going to give ourselves to go a chance to go all in one more time. But the Dolphins never went all in. And to your point, Tyler, it's obvious now that they're never going to go. Well, I don't want to say never, but they're not going all in, because if they did, these moves would be a little bit different. And they do want to be sustainable for the next 2, 3, 4 years outside of this rookie contract. And it looks like it's going to happen because AFC East is there for the taking. We're gonna have a betting episode. Kadeem didn't know it, but we're gonna have a betting episode coming up, and we're gonna talk about how the Dolphins are getting respected to win a division still. So yeah, but we're gonna have some sustainable teams coming up in the next couple of years, and that's credit to the way this franchise was built, or this team was built. What you got for us, Kadeem?
I think it's interesting that people say in like the back end of April, start of May, that Jock Robinson isn't going to start day one. It's like there's like 5-6 months left. Like he could 100% start day one, and not just because friend of the podcast Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips aren't fully recovered. Like, he can also kick inside. Like, there's things you can do with Jock Robinson to make sure he's on the field from day one. Not to mention, he might just have a really good training camp, and like, you know what, he's earned his start. Patrick Paul probably won't start day one, but I'm not trying to wish no juju or bad luck on anyone. It's Teron Armstead at left tackle. Like, Patrick Paul might need to start day one because Teron Armstead isn't healthy. I'm not trying to project that, but that's just the way it is. And yeah, I feel like the Dolphins were negatively graded on the draft because people didn't project these guys to start day one. But you don't know that's not the plan. You know, like we said beforehand, like we said after, I wish they doubled it the chip at offensive line in the first and second round. I still think, like you said, Tyler, there's problems on the offensive line. I'm not thrilled with our interior offensive line. I think there needs to be a bit more, not just depth, but a bit more starter quality. Aaron Brewer, Isaiah Winnerlim, Eichenberg, like inside doesn't thrill me. If we want to pass the ball downfield and Tua to step up in the pocket, I would like to see better protection. But listen, Liam Eichenberg might make that jump, which all of a sudden he becomes an even better prospect or even better pro. Aaron Brewer had a good year in Tennessee. Isaiah Wynn, when healthy, was productive, and you might even get Connor Williams back. So who knows? And just to comment on what Jason Keck said. So Jason Keck says, agreed, O-line is still a problem, and in the end, it will be the downfall again once a few injuries happen, and they will happen. My only issue with that is, it's not so much an issue, but any team in the NFL, and I do mean any team, if they start losing starters on the offensive line, there's going to be a dip in play. Like, not many teams are 7, 8, 9 players deep on the offensive line. Once you start getting backups in, they will play like backups. That's just the way it is. No one has 10 quality starters on the offensive line. So, and Charlie says it all the time. The last Super Bowl between the Chiefs and, my mind's gone blank. Who did the Chiefs just beat in Super Bowl?
The Niners.
The Niners, yeah. Both their offensive lines played essentially the entire season. They didn't have injuries.
As well as Buffalo and the Ravens. Their O-lines had the least amount of turnover.
So yeah, if the Dolphins can stay healthy on the offensive line, they should be fine. If there's injuries on the offensive line, don't be surprised if play dips. That happens at every single team across the league. So no, it will be interesting. There's training camp, rookie training camp, so much time for these guys to make a name for themselves.
Yeah, if I can touch on that O-line point, I think a big thing that I want to see this season, because we've been talking so much about sustainability and like wanting this team to be good, you know, in multiple facets of the game, and they are wanting to be good long-term as well. But we talk about like signing an OBJ, getting a Jonnu Smith, getting these guys who can attack the intermediate middle of the field, getting guys who can attack the flats. Like, they want to be a more well-rounded offense. And I wonder how much the pre-snap motion could be like not necessarily changed, but maybe diminished in percentage a little bit more, just because last year the problem was this offense was so Connor Williams and Tua dependent that when Liam Eichenberg had to step in at center, the timing was so bad. It wasn't even nearly as much the blocking as it was Miami kept trying the motion and they couldn't figure out the timing, and they couldn't trust their offense to go true drop back because teams would just press Waddle and Hill and the timing was messed up. Like, I wonder if having an OBJ, having a Jonnu Smith, having these guys who can go out and make plays, like, does that make it just like slightly easier to go true drop back and not have to run as much pre-snap motion when you're down, or not have to run it as much in general? Like, I get that that's going to be the main focus of this team, but it also doesn't work when you're having to shuffle guys in and out on the line. And I think Miami understands that that's going to happen, but the timing has to be different.
I don't think we have an O-line to just have Tua drop back like that. Like we want. That's exactly what I want. I've been wanted that. But and then another thing is the pre-snap motion with how fast everyone is on this offense creates so many problems for defenses that I think is going to be a part of our identity because it's just so easy to use. Now you got Malik Washington and Jalen Wright and all that. But way back to Kadeem's point when he said Chop Robinson starting or not starting, I don't even think Jalen Phillips started. You know what I'm saying? So going back there, it's not about if someone starts. It's about how many snaps they play in the game. You know what I'm saying? So Chop Robinson doesn't have to quote unquote start to make an impact on the game, especially when Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb come back. Last thing for me, friend of the podcast, Robert Hunt, was not polished when he came out. He was moved all over the line, wasn't polished, found a home at guard, and 4 years later, let me hold something, bro. $100 million deal. You know what I'm saying? $100 million. So I'm okay with Patrick Paul having the attributes, you know what I'm saying? The physical attributes of what you need to be a great offensive lineman. Maybe he wasn't on my great offensive lineman list, but Robert Hunt is just proved all that we should be able to trust the Miami Dolphins O-line coaches.
Robert Hunt was that's the one loss that kills me. I know we were never going to be able to pay him.
Yeah, man.
But it pains me because, like, I thought, he'd get before the offseason, there was like the SPO track, I think at midseason had him at like 8.5 million. And I was like, there's no way he's going to be like 15, 16. Him getting 25 a year, I think it was 4 years, 100, right? Or 5 years, 100?
Yeah, it's 4 years, 100.
Yeah, he's getting 25 million. It just stinks because he was so amazing these last two seasons, especially under McDaniel. Like, I really think the argument could be made that when you combine availability, which I understand was somewhat of a concern last year, with his play, there were a lot of times when he was the best offensive lineman on this team. So
he was always available though throughout the 4 years. He
wasn't. No, last year he missed a good few weeks due to injury.
I did say throughout the 4 years. I said throughout the 4 years. Like, you didn't have to worry about Robert Hunt missing. Like, it wasn't a thing like some other players on the O-line.
Yeah, it's just I meant the last 2 years. Like, he was available for a majority of it, but those last, I think he missed the playoff game too against Kansas City.
Yeah.
So just not having him, that's what's going to kill me. And it's just, I want to be able to see who's going to start opposite. Like, I would love to bring Connor Williams back and let him have a shot at guard. I would love to go see if you could trade for like you've got.
So the thing about Connor Williams though, he's not available yet. Like, that's why he hasn't picked up yet, because he's still recovering from the ACL. So I still think the Dolphins have the inside track at Connor Williams too. I think Connor Williams comes back mid-season around the same time Chubb and Phillips comes back, and then Connor comes back. So you're looking at a team, a Dolphins team, where if you can just get through the first 8 weeks of the season, which is a pretty decent schedule for us, which we should like round up with like 11 plus wins. Right now in Vegas, they got us at 9.5. Yeah, take that 9.5 for sure. You know what I'm saying? So if we could get through the first 8 weeks with a pretty decent win-loss record, you might come back and it'd be the opposite of what happened last year, where we started falling off. Where the Dolphins can pick up around week 8 and they get healthier. So
yeah, I
think we're gonna be all right.
Yeah, it all just comes down to not running your guys into the ground. Like Tyreek and Waddle, those guys cannot be as banged up as they were down the stretch of the season. And I understand Waddle's was more, like some of Waddle's injuries are more freakish than Tyreek's, but Tyreek specifically, if he finishes with over 1,500 yards, we're probably doing something wrong, which sounds crazy, but it's just like,
I don't know, bro. I disagree.
Yes,
my fantasy football team disagrees too. I'm just saying I disagree because it was an ankle injury. It wasn't like a soft tissue injury where like, all right, we might be overusing this man, and it was an ankle injury. It was like, he ended up falling on his ankle. Same thing with Waddle. It wasn't. They weren't soft tissue injuries, in my opinion.
They weren't, but I
Titans game.
Yeah, except like I get it. It's just like I don't want to put Tyreek and Waddle in situations where some of that, like, I don't think that they need to be running as many screens as they were to those guys, like getting them in those situations where it's so many just ankle tackles and because it didn't both of them get hurt on screens.
Well, Waddle hurt his hand. I'm sorry, Tyreek Hill hurt his hand on the screen. I can't remember when he hurt his ankle. I think it was a Titans game. Wasn't the Titans game where he came out for ages and they came back in the fourth quarter?
And he had
I can't remember the play though. I can't remember what play it was that he got hurt on. I will say this, and we kind of mentioned this before, and now this is the last thing for me. Wide receiver ones, the best wide receiver ones in the NFL, average like 11 targets a game. We weren't over killing like Tyreek Hill when it came to the average of how many targets a game. Like if you look at Chase's targets and Jefferson's targets and Cooper Kupp's targets when he was healthy, these boys, some of them boys get like 13 targets a game. You know what I'm saying? So I'm okay with $31 million a year, bro. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying $31 million a year. That's all I'm saying.
There are definitely some games though, like if you're looking down the stretch here, like when he was hurt, it was like 14, 13, 12. And I think that the problem isn't necessarily the targets, it's how much he's running across the field and getting those like they're not beating him up just with how much they're throwing on the ball. They're beating him up with the fact that he's getting the ball 3-4 plays in a row, and all of those plays he was running the same motion where he's just gassing himself out, and then he's cramped up and tired for an entire drive. And now it's like, can you go win this? Can you go get a touchdown this drive without Tyreek for 50% of the plays? Like that's where I'm just like, you can't have him doing this much over and over again. It's just I don't feel like that's a sustainable thing.
Hey, the link is in the chat right now. Tyler got his it's a nice little piece up on FinFocus. Y'all check it out as Kadeem puts it back on the screen.
100%.
Get us out of here.
Guys, Tyler, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
Like I said, go check him out. We'll definitely have you on more and to talk about so much Dolphin stuff. We will be back in the next few days. We got that draft giveaway 100%. So much stuff coming up over the next few weeks, including rookie mini camp and the schedule release, where I will be finding out when I am making that trip to Hard Rock Stadium for the first time. But thank you for joining us. Make sure you're subscribed across all the platforms. Twitter, still working on Instagram right now, it's down at the moment, but yeah, Twitter, Facebook, Bumble, plentyoffish.com, christianmatch.com, all the good places. If you're feeling generous, give us a subscription over on Patreon, and yeah, go follow Tyler. We will see you on the next one. Peace.